Hello, I'm Roberto Tejada, and I'll be reading some new work from a book that will be appearing next year. And I thought I'd recall my visit to Notre Dame and Letras Latinas in 2015, and the reading with poets who I greatly admire and whose work I've followed. And in that reading, Rose Alcalá, Carmen Jimenez Smith, Rodrigo Toscano, and myself, and I recommend that you view their readings on the website and the YouTube channel. We decided that we would read sections in a kind of choral format, and which we gathered and reorganized the totality of our work in the recital and delivery of it. I also recall my really engaging conversation with Chris Holloway and the panel the next day with poets Joanna Scorenson and Joelle McSweeney. So I'll begin with a handful of poems. This one is entitled Throne. Late afternoon in Houston, a shade of ale and sun surge in beleaguering caterwaul chords and petrochemical distortions of the atmosphere that turns a face into wax, into yellow edges and trapped little tinges of gold like the skin of a starfruit. Why bother with this business of extending the breath, lower jaw and overhang so that my tongue collapses like a wounded animal, a grossly swollen tuft under torch fire, my tribute to the carbon god? I led in idol worship the colossal volume, two towers sloping, each at the zenith, almost touching, and because I was given to claw and hack and chisel for my second life, through a bolt of space and air between the bronze-colored grid and solar glass, I remained insoluble, only certain of myself, insomuch as suddenly there was thunder come to rattle the cedar trees, and live oaks come to forfeit the lavender and grasses. Warning. I meant to acknowledge in timorous chords my voice below the crawl space. So recoiled I obtained a shape in emergency drill, disordered rush of my signal, minted in glint fraction of a world, my principality of contempt and gladness, with so many callers to welcome as there were visitors to refuse, involving one of my elders, your holiness, the living daylights, your grace, the last resort, your eminence, all cameras off, all the garbled wartime frequency, warnings and transistor innuendo, even as I made no circle with the quietest keepers, even as I had no part in the turntable distortions of our landlocked republic, intoning the exact legacy of pain committed to memory, despite the exorbitant distance of my person in petrified advance. Now look what you've done. Just look what the interim did to these lines I retract in histamine dilation. The idea was this: I propelled my flexible form, bereft of guidance, each day defiant, the low, insubordinate timeline, assigning my opponent to the horizon and the airwaves. Time to wake Michael. Long view, short breath, wrong sign, tethered, unwinding into place, distended edge, frayed. I am the clinic of this radius with my mouth and cheek uncertain cell, my genome survivals of blood, buried stop motion coupling at the outskirts that fasten unfitting for our neighbors what they do there. Maybe time for arms and axes, time for spouses, so given to lip and uplift, given to spine and finger, throat and hip, to clavicle. In everything I rough, tumble, venerate, in you this custody makes possible a past, the solitary plenitude of twin time home in slow descent, the company we keep. September. Mirror symmetry in the wilderness, the marauders with their sirens and sticks, an astrolabe for the constellation of Cancer, for the one true calibrated mercy of my immediate and overfamiliar shadow cast in autumn firm, hexagonal. I could no sooner bring myself to imagine it was just as well to them I was disappeared or barely discernible along the causeway than to dwell confined in the animal recesses of my vesicular sleep. Only then am I entrusted to shatter consigned to the rattling outer reaches of my nerve in turquoise, uncovered by lamplight, a body outnumbered by octaves. And I'll end with this poem. Thank you for listening. In person. My effigy in bronze across the front lines, excluded from the parable suitable for action. Rather, I think now, in forever present wonder, do I voice the discerning note insane in the separation, or rather none between tangle and action, between rite of entry and ritual, for the wartime world overbright on my birthday, hour entangled? How will I ever obtain again my bearing if I tell the number akin to my displacement, and whether I was accountable, who among us, in defense of the builder, with tactics appealing to our vanity, area of my square on the hypotenuse, perplexing double pull of self-denial, of shade and scale. I am inside out for a form of life, in person, an open-air, brutal little side of my apologetic fold. I thought I knew to be hospitable, but in the overcast was my reflection. I entered the immensity of my whereabouts. I kept losing things in winter memory. Foremost, please find me. Thank you.